So, hello everyone. Welcome again to the Animas channel. Today, I am joined by Piotr, who is one of our alumni and who has kindly agreed to share his experience with us with coaching. So, welcome, Piotr.
Thanks for having me. Yes, indeed. I mean, alumni sounds very serious, right? I just felt like we just barely met for the introductory, like, is this even a thing I want to do type of a meeting? But
Yes,
that's been 3 years ago. Yeah, not full 3 years, but like, wow.
almost exactly.
Jeez.
Exactly. Well, I'm really excited to hear everything what you've done so far. But would it be okay if you shared a little background about yourself first, what you do and everything?
Sure. I'm Piotr Tomaszewski. The surname clearly indicates my Polish heritage. I actually live in Poland again after a couple of years in Berlin. Who am I and what do I do? That's always makes my brain think of like, how philosophical do I want to be here? Let's say the three words that really I like describe what I do professionally is like I'm a design manager. It's been a designer in tech for nearly 10 years now. And since last four, I've been leading teams, really have been focusing on the people behind the work and then how can I empower the people. Somewhere around the time I became a manager, I became a design mentor. So I remember like people lining up after my talk on a meetup asking for career advice, and I really loved the feeling of it. But at one point I realized, like, what if I cannot give advice? What if I actually don't have an answer but I still want to help? And this was around the time where I started investing into coaching as a thing that could make me a better manager and that can help me work with those people that want answer that I cannot give, but maybe they have the answer inside of them already. So design manager, mentor, and a coach, that's a trio of my professional identities. Aside from that, I'm a husband and a father, a vinyl record collector. It's my obligatory expensive hobby. I think everyone should have one. Could be a collection or, I don't know, extreme sport or something like that. I also enjoy doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I really love fancy coffee beans. I think that's another of those hobbies that's getting a little bit out of hand. But yeah, you know, life has life has meaning if you know how to use the money that you earn, right? Like it needs to be invested wisely.
Absolutely. Oh, so many interests. I'm so excited today. So you touched on a little bit about the people that you work with.
Mm,
We're really curious about the main challenges that they face so that
mm,
people who want to use coaching, they understand what can
mhm.
actually help.
Yeah. So, like my job as a designer of apps and websites, it's always in context of people who's going to be using those products. So at the beginning of my career, I was like, okay, how can we make it the best for the target audience, for people who will be using that particular website or an app? And at one point, I realized that curiosity towards people, I could also turn inwards into the people I work with. Like, what does my partner need to have our shared project successfully out of the door? Or what is the peer that I work side by side need for me as a good colleague? And that naturally get into like my practice as a manager, because it's like, what do you need to succeed? And the problems that I see are always people problems, and I question, are there any other problems? Like most of what we do in life involves some other people. So in case of my work, both as a manager or as a coach or mentor, it's always about like, I have this relationship with a topic. I have this relationship with people that I work around the topic, and I have this relationship with myself when I work on the topic. So if a designer is working on a particularly challenging task, they might be doubting themselves. Self doubt, imposter syndrome are very typical topics that I work with. They might have a problem with relationship with others, unvoiced
Mm.
expectations, taking different roles, um, the kind of mindset shifts from, maybe a creator or a partner to a victim or a prosecutor. Like all of this type of mental dance happens outside of our the light of our consciousness oftentimes. And then they also have a relationship to a topic. If this project is not successful, am I a good designer? Like, am I good enough? It's different than can I make it? It's more like, is this type of work really indicate how good I am and how worthy I am in my job? So it's always about relationships. Most of the time it involves different people, but I think it all stems from the relationship with ourselves. So we just cannot bring someone else to work. We are ourselves, and like there's no way to escape from that. So the faster we embrace that relationship, all the other relationships get easier as a result.
What does it look like in the everyday? Is it really where you sit down for 45 minutes and that comes up? Or what does it look like? Is it a 5-minute conversation that you have with your people?
Yeah. So as a manager, coaching is just one of the tools I have, right? So that's a really important thing to mention, that there is no best leadership style that works for everyone. My observation is that the more junior the person in my team is, the more of a mentor and a guide I need to be. And the more senior they are, the more of a coach I tend to become. So and the question is really like, let's say we have a one-on-one conversation about the project and I hear about a blockage of some sort, like, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know what's the best approach. My first question that I screen the situation is, does the person have knowledge and resources to solve it on their own? If I have worked on a specific project before, I might be oozing with ideas and advice based on my past, but like learned through my coaching training at Animas that like actually sometimes creating a bit of a distance between the situation and your particular thoughts about it could be really beneficial. So I usually just like, okay, have you worked on something like this before? Like, what do you think is stopping you here? Like, just trying to understand the situation. And we oftentimes forget that coaching is an act of thoughtful provocations in form of a question. So like, I don't tell the person, hey, we're engaging into coaching conversation, right? Instead, I just ask them questions. And when I realize, I feel like you have it there, but like something is blocking you, I ask more questions. If I realize that maybe actually you don't know how to do because you haven't been challenged like this before, or maybe you're a little bit too junior to deal with this caliber of a problem, I might chime in with a story from how I solved it in the past. And then telling exactly what to do and what is my advice or my particular expectation or recommendation is always the last step. I think that's safer than the other way around. Like, if coaching is the last step, I might end up micromanaging everyone. But if the coaching is the first step versus a particular, please do this and that way, it will work, is a very rare occasion. It turns out that people tend to find their own find their own answers and their own path. But that's like in my job as a manager. Obviously, if someone comes to me for a service, which is mentoring or coaching, it's different, right? Because contracting is super important. Like, what are you trying to get out of it? Of this relationship is my first question, and I wouldn't engage in this type of work without having clarity that I can support that person. And it's also slightly different if someone comes for mentoring around specific design challenge in their career versus maybe they're a leader dealing with, I would say, evergreen challenges of being a leader, which is, kind of expectation setting, communication, stakeholder management. So it's a gradient from being a manager to a coach. The coach is more the most abstract hat that I wear versus the manager is the most bespoke, most specific, because in the end I am hired for this particular job to be a design leader and accountable for that success, versus a coach, I'm actually not accountable for people's success or the lack of it, right? Like, success is even not really a category that we look at the work we do. So it's slightly different in each case.
That was very well explained. It sounds like you've developed the intuition between knowing when the coaching and when the mentoring is most useful.
The first thing is always like, which of my, I don't know, professional entities are we dealing with, right? Is like, if it's a part of my job, I could coach my team all day, but in the end I am responsible for the results of their work, so I might need to employ different tools. If someone comes for me as a service, I'm like, okay, what do you want, right? Like, what do you need? And then we might have in the session, we all kind of, it could be a mix of coaching, mentoring, storytelling, advice, brainstorming. Like, I really do offer my all, but I open up gradually to what well, of course, we set up the contract at the very beginning, but then, as I said before, I try not to jump ahead into conclusions about someone needing my particular thoughts or advice. In the end, it's never a lost time to just go deeper and inquire. Oftentimes, I actually learn that the whole situation could be seen through so many different perspectives if we just give the situation some time in a conversation. Very unexpected developments tend to happen, very different than my original thought would be. So I think intuition is definitely, it's there, but I also have to say that I just meander oftentimes and follow the flow of a conversation. I think Animas have instilled one deep belief is that you might be surprised. I remember having this exercise in our training program where we were expected not to say anything at all, and each time, and pay attention to each time where we feel like we want to finish a sentence, how often are we actually right with what we would finish the sentence for someone. And that really stayed with me all those years. I'm like, I just feel like I know what's happening, but if I just pause, I might learn something totally different.
You'd be surprised how many conversations like this that I have, and that exercise always comes up. It's so true. Could you tell us maybe the noticeable differences that you have experienced between before you had training and then after coach training?
Oh, many. One story that comes to my mind is that a couple of years back, when I first started being a manager, if I had a conversation with one of my direct reports and I would hear all the things that are wrong, I would go deeper and deeper into feeling like, okay, I'm failing at being a good manager. How can I take this frustration away? Now, my go-to was let me solve this for you. Training have helped me realize also that there's a certain role in, there's a theoretical framework called the drama triangle, for example, that I've learned about, that the role of a rescuer, of a people pleaser, of someone who just tries to avoid frustration, take it away, to make it really, not to really help a person in front of me, but to make it easier for myself. I realized that's a pattern. So right now I'm much more resilient in my ability to withstand the frustration, observe and containerize the frustration of a person in front of me. And instead of asking, how can I take this away from you? I'm first asking, what do you want to do about it? And once I hear something back, because the agency of a person is important, right? They own the situation. Oftentimes at work, we're talking about work, right? If you have a project, you might be super frustrated, everything is unfair and people are mean and things are bad, but in the end, it's your project in your team. You own part of it, at least. So then my second question is how can I help you? How can I support you? But the agency is with you. That's something that haven't been there. I haven't been trained as a manager. All of the leadership development trainings I've done in a part of different companies have not really gave me that tools that coaching training at Animas did. So that's one thing. The other thing is also paying attention to me. So I realized that as a leader, self-regulation and an ability to be vulnerable is something that is not only an option, but oftentimes is a necessity to build rapport with my team. Managers in pop culture are oftentimes, portrayed as super positive with answers and there's never a moment of doubt. But in fact, we are all human, right? So I've learned how can I safely share what I'm feeling, what's coming up to me either in my body or in my mind. What intuitions do I have to a person without colluding, without influencing them, but just sharing what comes up to me, sending a very strong message that it's okay to share what is coming up to you and how you feel about that. Sugar coating is another thing that, at least in the Western managerial styles, is like it's important to be positive and, kind of portray situation as a learning opportunity or a growth moment. But thanks to the training, I kind of know that no, we're all adults. Like, I can say that I think this is bad and hold those emotions, like whether they will come and pass. And then once we're ready to move forward, then I can lead with a curiosity, with a question, like, okay, what do we do about it then? Now, as we know and stated, this isn't great, this is bad. How do we go about it, right? That really freed me from this panic firefighting mindset I had before the training, which is like, oh my god, there's a problem in my team. What do I do? What do I do? It's on me. And now it's like, I acknowledge the fact that this is a challenge, is frustration, but then also I have the tools now to first work with me before I act in the external world with others about it. And when working with others, I also know that they play a part. We all play parts in what happened to us to a certain degree. Obviously, there are limits to individuals' influence, but I always try to start there. Like, what can you control about this? And that's the question I was asking myself.
There are so many themes of I suppose the main theme really that I'm hearing is that the agency and the
Mm,
self-leadership first as a coach is very important, and then also
mm,
you can facilitate that
yeah,
for your team or for anyone who you work with.
it's very
Um,
important.
Absolutely. I'm curious if you can think of specific examples, maybe
Mm,
specific people that you have worked with before and after, and how the results have been different
mm,
because you've used the transformative coaching approach.
yeah. Hmm. One example comes to my mind, which is someone who was way more senior than me at actual design craft. So I became a manager relatively fast in my career. Uh, my manager, also an Animas alumni, definitely a pattern, have promoted me because of she saw the potential in me in working with people and the people skills, communication, all of that stuff. But that come at a cost, right? When you get promoted to a managerial position, which is by nature way more hands-off than a specialist role, I never really get that time to develop that high level of craft. So in one of my teams, I have a really, really senior designer, way like nearly twice as many years of experience as I do. And I realized they were coming to our one-on-ones like frustrated with a lot of like complaints. I have to, at the beginning, like I started working there, yeah, I think a year before I started my training. So at first I was really challenged of like, how can I work here? Like, I cannot really mentor. There isn't anything that I've done that could be leveraged here as a good practice. I actually don't know. And then there's all of these complaints and all of this tough emotions about it. So at first we were like, it was quite difficult for me as a relationship. I felt lack of agency as a manager, and I could only imagine that the other person felt also a little bit of lack of support, because like they were sharing a lot of the things and I kind of throw some half-baked ideas and try to give advice. And when I started the training, I really take it on of trying to use this in my context, right? Because I think all the skills we are learning, it's important to practice, practice, practice. And what better place to practice than the conversations that I already have at work, where appropriate, obviously, right? So while I said before that in this one-to-one session, I don't flag it that we're engaging into a coaching container. At the same time, you also need to know the boundaries of not coaching people where, I don't know, you should supposed to give them, I don't know, inputs to the project, right? Or your friends, like it should be consensual. But a little bit of starting with curiosity and questions, some of those questions that I've learned through the training, I was like, okay, let me try to ask that and see what happens. Like, created a little bit of an experimental playground for me in one-on-ones. And to my surprise, when I started being better at listening, of like letting all the frustrations out without interrupting and chiming in with my advice, then there was a moment of pause. And instead of saying, what do I think, I would ask, what do you want to do about it? And to my surprise, well, with a little bit of grumpiness and still frustrations, there were always some new ideas. And then I could observe it on that person's face. I was like, okay, I could do that. Yeah, I think, yeah, maybe I'll do it. And then I was like, okay, wow, that works way better now. So I changed my approach working with them. And I think that also incrementally make their work with their team better. That's from my practice as a manager. And I think like one example that comes from my practice as a mentor and a coach was that I had a client who came to work with me, coming back as a manager after a long, nearly 2-year break. So a lot of things can happen during that time where you might lose a little bit of confidence. And basically, they wanted a safe person to strategize, brainstorm their approach to how to be successful in this new job. But to my surprise, the lack of ideas and plans and strategies was not the problem at all when we started working through it. Turns out there were some deep rooted beliefs about, am I good enough as a manager at this new company? Because I only been a manager in this one previous company, and that was different because I was promoted from a specialist to a manager. When that person was supposed to come to a new company and establish themselves as a solid new leader, no one would like know all of the backstory that what made them successful in this previous company. They expected some level of performance out of the door, and that was the core of the first, I want to say, 4 to 6 sessions, so just to unpack like the feelings that come with that long break, and that was something that I've learned in the training, that like you can work at different levels, from the most top level of like performative of other the tools and techniques and what do we want to do until we meet again, all the way to the transformative layer of like how do you see yourself and the situation. And I use a lot of reframing techniques to just try to provoke a reaction, to see the situation slightly differently. Will someone actually question your expertise if you're just been hired for a place where they have for long have struggled without a leader? The team is probably really hungry for support. Will that really, how you're seeing yourself, the doubt of like, am I good, will that really be the first question they ask? The other example was like, okay, but like I hear what you are afraid of for yourself, but like let's imagine like what is the team needs from a leader coming in. And then it quickly help us freed up from like, oh my god, this is so stressful, into like, yeah, I think I could help, like this could be my first focus point. So these learnings from my training have really found its way into different conversations, whether it's someone actually hired me for coaching, or I just use it as a tool in my toolbox as a manager. I kind of feel like I'll be quite frustrated with how I'm dealing with people if I haven't had that in my toolkit, because I only could presume that I would take a lot of things very personally, as in like, oh my god, that's a story about me. I'm the main character in all of this. But now I've learned that, yeah, actually we all are main characters in our own stories, and from time to time we can nudge in and inquire about that story. Does it really make sense? Is this really a dragon that you're after, or this is just a tough like it's an email that you need to write by Friday? Like, is what is really the challenge ahead of you? And Animas have helped me unpack that, both for myself and also for others.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. I'd love to ask for more examples, but what would you say is the noticeable differences that you've seen in your clients,
Mm.
maybe in the way that they lead or in their work?
Mm.
That's a common question.
Yeah, I coach design and creatives in marketing, brand. So it's either design and tech or design and creative. And these are the people who are curious, who are like really disciplined and driven by high quality work. And the training of being a designer makes you really curious about other people and their needs. There's a common technique in product design and research, which is the 5 whys, which is to inquire like of 5 levels of like, why is something happening? It's really cool, but as everything I've learned through Carl Jung's work has a bit of a dark side, a bit of a shadow. So if you're so good at questioning, you might also use it against you and start questioning yourself and not ghosting, gaslighting yourself, or you might like be doubting everything you do because someone might have a better idea. So for my clients who are leaders, oftentimes uh, every new challenge is an opportunity to ruminate, to go in circles about what could be better, instead of owning the fact that you're. Oftentimes I work with new leaders, like freshly promoted or in the new context, like seasoned leaders, but put in either a different role or a different organization. You just, acknowledging that this is new for me and I will not be perfect, because there's not a perfect solution. It's just a solution that we can measure and see whether it solves a problem or not. That's oftentimes the takeaway from one of the couple of sessions, which is like, can you tell me like what is the proper way to solve this situation? And I need to get it back to them of like, what do you think is the best way? Oh, I've been thinking about this and that, but I don't know, I'm not sure. Okay, great. Which of those kind of feels the most natural, best for this particular situation? And then in this safe container where oftentimes your own thoughts are like reflected back to you, it creates this practice of like self-trust. I know it's terrible marketing for coaches, but sometimes we are just rubber ducks. It's a technique I've learned from engineering, that if you have a particular tech problem, you can speak to a rubber duck, because if you hear your thoughts externalized, you might just find a solution. So I'm not saying coaching is just listening or reframing back, but like oftentimes that's the first step for a person to feel like, actually, I have ideas. Actually, most of them are quite good. So then it's just a series of nudges to like, okay, so which one of those do you want to try this time? And then how will you know it work? And how will you keep yourself accountable? Will you let me know, or should I check in with you to see how it works? So oftentimes these are, I feel, quite small changes in behavior, but like what I'm hearing around the time where we pass that, the biggest challenge, every coaching container has a peak moment, and since then it kind of eases out. I think for the time being, people don't really need more of my support, and we naturally kind of end up our collaboration. Sometimes we revisit it in the future, sometimes not. And I feel like that's the core of the offering, is really being there while the situation is tough. So it's hard for me to measure that, like, yeah, it's like 13% increase in confidence. I will
Yeah.
not say that, but
Yeah.
definitely I've seen this in people's eyes when they glimmer, when they have this really good idea that they have not had the time to think through, and now they're sharing with me. And I kind of encourage them to not look for my approval, but instead try it out, or give their own approval for this, and see what happens. So yeah, it's always an increase of confidence in some way, but
Yeah.
as confidence is very, very human and fluid, it's not going to be easily measurable. I think it's very qualitative. You kind of feel the coaching is working more than you know it's working, and why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the magical thing about this type of service, that like you feel you're getting the value before you understand why and how it works.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Self-trust and confidence. And I suppose I think the last thing I'd love to ask is why why do you think coaching skills are more important now?
Mm.
Yeah, for people leading and developing people.
Yeah, I think you will hear this a lot, but I think like the world is changing into a place where the time between a stimuli and a reaction is just shortening. We're expected to have an opinion super fast. We're expected to know a new topic via shortcut or a TikTok video in 90 seconds. You're expected to have a stance, like here or there, like I'm one of this tribe or the other tribe. That's my point of view on this very tricky situation, or the other. So like points of view, specific advice, knowledge, access to knowledge is not a problem right now. Critical thinking into how can I apply this knowledge? How do I first prioritize and evaluate and apply this knowledge to my particular situation is key. Also, integration of that knowledge. So what is magical about coaching for me is that like the insights come in a session, but the actual work happens between the sessions. So integration is reflecting after that session, actually deciding how much of that I want to do and trying to do it, and then coming back for another session to reflect on what happened and how to course correct. So practicing coaching skills is actually creating those little pockets of time where instead of being pressured to just have our opinion right now, to just ask ChatGPT or just like do something, just throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks, you extend that space between the stimuli, the question, the ask, the request, and the response. It doesn't have to be long. I'm not asking people to slow down the world because it's been accelerating at a crazy pace, and it's not like we have that much of a power to stop it down. But in your own life, in your own practice, it creates these little moments of reflection and integration. For leaders, pressure is the name of the game. Like, I don't know any manager who would say this is the most like chill job I ever had. Like, I love it. It's a big salary and no one really wants anything out of me. I just sit here and in my corner office and enjoy my life. I don't have those. Maybe someone else has those clients, but I don't work with managers who are reporting that. So if you have a lot of pressure and everyone's like wants something yesterday, on it's all on you, oftentimes these skills can help you realize you're not alone. You can help others find their own areas of agency and ownership. So it means like you as a leader can do less of the things that were never yours to do in the first place. And second of all, you can hold yourself to a different standard, understanding where do you add value because you know how to work with yourself. The coaching, I'm very careful not to say that, coaching is a thing that you can use on others and yourself. Some of those reflective techniques are good to use on yourself. Like, you can check in on your values every time and every now and then to see kind of maybe your frustration is coming through a fact that something has shifted. But the real change that happens since I train as a coach is that I also realize how much I am my biggest blind spot. So I also realize sometimes I need a coach, I need a mentor, I need a therapist, different types of support that I need. So for leaders who are like just trying to deal with that pressure, oftentimes coaching can give you a tool, but also have made you realize that what I'm giving to others, I also need to receive from somewhere. I also need that. And there are different ways to get it, right? Aside from getting a coach, you can start a peer coaching community. You can exchange knowledge and experiences. But I think overall, to summarize, it takes you out of like blinders and gives you extend the space of opportunity, creates a little pocket of time that you can actually think through what you're going to do. You can feel a bit more confident about your next step. And overall, I guess everything gets a little bit, I don't know whether it gets easier or you feel better about it. That's what I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
But it's definitely worth to look into coaching, either as a something that you might want to get from someone to feel better about your situation and be more confident, or something that you can give to others as a tool that you can develop in your toolkit. Most probably both. At different times, I was a receiver and a giver, and I feel like this will just keep fluctuating each time. Sometimes we give more, sometimes we take more, depending on what's the situation.
Oh my goodness. Any parting advice to anyone who is still doubting, or
Hmm.
maybe just advice for someone who is starting?
Hmm.
Yeah, please.
Coaching feels like magic when you receive it, but or where you like practice it, but it's actually not magic, right? Like, it's a skill, it's craft. It could be rooted back all the way to antiquity and the Socratic method. As long as humans have developed brain and abstract imagination, coaching probably existed in one way or the other. So it could be learned. So that's very important also, that like, where do you learn it from? And also, once if you're looking for support, where do you get the support from? The problem with coaching as a term is that it's extremely wide as an umbrella term, right? And I think as I coach my clients to just, experiment in real life, try something out, I think it's also important for either the person interested in getting coaching training or people interested in receiving coaching as a service is to kind of see what, like, reflect what do you need, but like try a couple of things out. It's like trying new shoes. You need to be able to walk a couple of miles, spend some time with a person. When I first started having coaching clients, I've set up everything on my website to be one-click payment, like on Amazon, just to realize no one actually buys a service that is based on spending time with a stranger without meeting that stranger. So I realized the opposite approach is a way better one, which is actually like, yes, let's meet. Maybe I cannot help you. Maybe I'm not the right fit, and now happy refer you to someone else. Maybe you need something else, or maybe we're just fit perfectly in the moment, because like I am excited to work with you and you're interested in what I can offer. It's all try and error. We need to try and experiment. So lead with curiosity would be my parting motto, my parting words.
Oh, thank you so much, Piotr, for today. I'm sure everyone's going to find this so useful. The practical examples that you gave was invaluable. So, yes, where can people find you?
Yes, thank you, Adi. I always feel like supernatural to share, and I try to share as much as I can in different ways. One way to stay in touch is LinkedIn. Definitely, you can type my name and the surname, and I'm a person, so you can just send me a message. Like I feel like I need to be explicit about it, because you don't have to enter a sales funnel to have a sample session, or like you just can ask me a question, like say, hey, how are you doing? I have this curiosity. The other way is that I share my thoughts regularly on my website, which is the first name of my first name and my whole surname.com. So ptomaszewski.com. I hope people can find a link somewhere in the show notes or something like that, because it's hard to spell it. There are my thoughts, my recorded trainings. There's a newsletter. There are blogs. Like I cannot stop but give my thoughts to the world, and I always expect some things to come back to me. So I expect people to come back with a question or a comment or something. In the end, this is I'm a very curious person, so I expect to find new things about working with people. So if someone feels the curiosity towards anything that I said, or blatantly doesn't agree with me, just wants to debate, those are two ways to contact me. On the website, there is a short form on the contact page to reach out, and then I reply by an email and schedule a short session for us to get to know each other. So yeah, I'm wide open.
Oh, amazing. I can attest to your newsletters. I'm not in design, but I do enjoy still getting them.
Oh,
So
thank you.
we'll definitely put it in the show notes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you,
Great.
Piotr. Let me
Thank you for
stop.
having me.